Taco Tuesday. Oh my God, you guys, I'm so glad to have you here today. I'm here with Steven Healey. He is the producer of this show. This show is brought to you by Living Live. And right now we're in the audition portion of the show. Why are we doing auditions? Well, because I had this idea to do a talk show. And Steven, I thought it would be so cool to audition people instead of me picking. This way the audience could pick who they think would be the best people to be on the show with me. What did you think about that idea?
I think the idea is working well because the number of votes each week is going up and up and up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This last week's auditions, the numbers, they quintupled quintupled five times more of the votes. So that is so awesome. And I can't wait until the end of this segment, you guys, where I'm going to announce the winners of last week's show. So Steven, if you want to put up on the screen there, who was in last week's show, if you have that card available, I can't remember. There we go. So we had Letha, Dr. John, Angela, and Anita. So I'm going to be announcing in about 30 minutes or so who the two winners that will be going into round two. I'm super duper excited to announce them. And you guys, it was really, really close. It was really close. And I just kept seeing the numbers coming in. I was wondering last night what was going to happen. And here you go. I'll announce it later today. So today's show is going to be a little bit short. I had 4 people slated to be on the show today, but one of them has walking pneumonia, prayers going out, and the other one had a medical emergency with family members. So prayers going out to both of them. So let's send healing prayers to the two of them in hopes that everything turns out okay and they get better really, really soon. So today's show, we're going to have Sarah and Janine. They'll be joining us shortly. And Steven, hey, why don't you just share with everybody what it's been like to be producing this show?
Hectic is a good word. It's been busy. Every show has been different. Every potential co-host has. I mean, I know that if you had a free choice rather than the voters doing it, then yes, you would have said to 7 out of 8, yes, you're my co-host. Yes, you're my co-host.
And
it would have gone down like that. But we can only have so many. So it's been interesting, exciting, and a great experience. And I'm looking forward to tonight's show with Janine and Sarah. So
yes,
all good.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And so what we're going to do now, you guys, again, in a half hour, I'll be announcing the winners from last week's rounds. And then what's going to happen is in December, the people who win in November, they're going to all move into December, and then there'll be chance for you to vote for them again, the people that you like the most. The idea is for you to figure out who would be the best co-host to be on the show with me. And then starting January 8th is when we actually go live with the show. It's going to be 1 season long, 12 weeks. And people keep asking me, what are the topics? What are the topics going to be about? Well, I can't tell you yet. Why? Because I don't know who the co-hosts are. What if you guys have selected a co-host that has topics that are totally different than what I would want to talk about or that I would even think about talking about? So it's going to be really interesting to see who the co-hosts are in the final round and then to see what we're going to be talking about. And I can't wait to have you guys here to be part of that. So after this show today, you're going to go to talkotuesday.tv, and Steven will put that up on the screen, talkotuesday.tv, to vote for either Sarah or Janine. So make sure you vote. You can vote every day, vote once a day. Go in there and just vote for them as much as you can. Voting will be open immediately after today's show, and it will close next Monday, the 26th at midnight Pacific time. So Steven, with that said, let's bring on today's auditioneers. And yes, people, I do know that's not a word, but I'm going to coin it. It's my own word, and I made it up, and I should go ahead and trademark that before you do. So welcome. We've got Janine and Sarah. Welcome to the show, you guys. It's so good to see you here today. How are you doing?
Doing fabulous. Thank you very much for having me here.
Wonderful. Excited.
Well, as you can tell, my excitement level is super duper through the roof. And, I really think that that's because I didn't tell anybody this yet. I think I told Janine earlier that I hurt my foot, but I didn't tell you how. So last night, you guys, I have 2 little dogs. And if it was by midnight or so, they wanted to go outside and go to the bathroom. So I opened the door, I let them both out. Well, one of them came back in. The other one decided, I'm not having anything of it. And I'm like, I'm going back to bed. Fine, you can stay outside. So about an hour and a half later, I hear scratch, scratch, scratch on the door. And I go to stand up to let the dog in, and my entire right leg was numb. completely numb. So what happened was when I stepped down, my legs just buckled and I fell down and my foot, I twisted. I don't even know what I did. It didn't break, thank goodness. But that's how my day started off, right after midnight. But I'm on fire today, and I think it's because I'm super excited to have you guys here to learn more about you and to see how you might be able to be one of the co-hosts on the show. Now, the audience will vote, and I did that strategically because just like Steven said earlier, I would have said, I want you, I want you, I want you. This will just make it a lot easier for me. So it's whoever the audience votes on. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to be asking you guys a few questions. It'll be like kind of like an interview format, so the audience will get a chance to meet you, and this is just for the first round. So whoever goes into round 2, that person will do more like a talk show style so that people can vote based on the talk show style. So I'm going to ask, first of all, Janine, why don't you share with us who you are and what you do?
I am a ghostwriter, and what I do is I actually help people get stories out and put them in a book form so that they can use that to then leverage their business, leverage themselves as an expert in their industry, and then use those to actually get their message out to even more people out in the world. What I'm most passionate about in that same arena is working with life stories, people's life experiences that then allow them to put those into a book, all of their stories that they've had, everything from childhood to where they're at now, how they got to what they're doing, and then take that coupled with their best life advice and put that in a book form so that it preserves their cultures, their history, their experiences. They can use it to inspire current generations as well as leave behind to actually connect future generations with today's generations.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love that. And now if you're watching the show live and you have any questions for Janine, go ahead and pop them down below in the comments. For those who don't know, I'm currently on my phone today, so I won't be able to see your comments, but they might be able to see them. So that'll be good. So Sarah, oh, yes.
There's one question that was posted about voting. And do they have to be live to vote, or can they vote after the broadcast?
They can vote after the broadcast, and actually the voting polls don't even open until after the broadcast. So nobody can vote until I open the voting polls, which is going to be immediately after this show is done. And again, you'll go to talkotuesday.tv to vote. That was a great question. Thank you so much for putting that question in there. So Sarah and Janine, since we're live here and I can't see the comments and you guys can, if somebody comes up with a question or a comment or whatever while we're going, just go ahead and share it and like just burst in. It's okay with me. This is your show, right? So let's have a lot of fun. Okay, so Sarah, why don't you go ahead and share with us who you are and what it is that you do?
Yes, my name is Sarah Lee, like the cake. People always kind of laugh
yummy,
at that.
Yummy.
Yes, nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee, right? I'm a 20-plus year entrepreneur. I have owned 4 businesses in that time period, worked for myself for over 20 years. And primarily right now, I teach business owners how to make more money, how to pitch their business, how to get partners. I also do a few other things, but primarily pitch meetings, consultations around business planning, and teach people how to make money. I also do media interviews, so I have an interview talk show as well, and I help women get their messages out on their business.
That's awesome. So what made you go that route? Because you said you've had 4 businesses before, and then now you're going that route where you're helping people make money, and that's awesome. 20 years. Oh my gosh. If I do this for 20 years, I'll be 71. So yeah, share with us how you got into doing that.
That is a funny story. So I actually used to be an art historian, and I used to manage money for a nonprofit, and I had to learn about money, and I found it to be intimidating. I found it to be scary, and I learned over time how to do that and realized it was a valuable skill, and it was a valuable skill to teach other people. So over time, over 20 years, you learn a lot of different things. And in my case, I realized that empowering women became kind of a passion in the last several years, where I'm involved in a charity that we basically, like I said, we network with other women and we empower them to achieve their goals, business goals and charity goals.
Well, why don't you share with us the name of the charity and how people can find it?
Sure. It's there's a website, gwenglobal.com. And Gwen stands for Global Women's Empowerment Network. So
Okay.
it's a bit of a two-part charity. One aspect of it is actually media, books, music, and that's a for-profit. And then the nonprofit aspect is basically helping women specifically that maybe have financial problems or that have been homeless or that have struggled, how to empower them in their lives, how to get them back on their feet, how to improve their lives. And then
That's
we're trying
fantastic.
to bring attention to that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Okay. So Janine, now first of all, let me ask you guys, are you hearing an echo?
Yes.
Okay, it's gone. It's gone for me now. So Janine, why don't you share with us how you got into doing this, legacy story writing? How did that come about? Why, like, that's kind of a different thing, right? Like, we don't hear about that very often. Actually, I've never heard about it. So, so why don't you share with us how you got into that?
Well, I too have a path of how I actually became an entrepreneur. So my background is actually in the legal industry. I've been a legal secretary for nearly 25 years. And I just got to a point where I just wanted to get out of that arena. And I wanted to create something that I really, really enjoyed. And that brought me satisfaction into helping other people become unforgettable and create their lifestyle. So I've gone through a couple of different phases of things that I tried to do to get myself out of the legal field. And eventually I came across travel writing. And I do a lot of writing in the legal arena. And so I figured, I could build this copywriting, content writing business and be in that arena. But then when I saw the travel writing, I just went, now that's what I want to do. So after I got into that arena, I kind of sat on the sidelines watching, trying to figure out how to do it. How do you pitch magazines and all that kind of stuff? And then I had a friend that really helped me get into a mastermind group with a coach. And he said to me, have you ever thought about writing books for other people? And I went, oh God, no. Why would I want to write books for other people? That's not for me. Right. So we talked and we talked and we talked. And he came up with the story of writing people's legacy stories, their life stories. And we talked about how most of us do not know who our great, great, great grandparents are. And if we do, we might know their name. Because if you're into genealogy or ancestry, then you get little bit of information. But do you really know their stories of what their lives were like? And I thought more and more about this. And the more I thought about my grandmother passing at nearly 102 in 2015, the best part about her life was sitting around listening to her stories. So that generation of people that we have that were that were born in the early 1900s. So she was born in 1913. So these last 100 years, that generation of people is going to be our generation that has experienced the most change in life. When we think about what they had in the early 1900s versus what we have today, they have seen the creation of just about everything and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I really,
that's so true, right?
Yeah. And I really got on board with preserving those stories because who else is going to be around to tell them? We're going to be losing that whole generation. So if you don't make history books, your story is going to be gone. So this is the best way to really resonate with people, get them to see how important their life story is and how they can preserve that story and use it to connect with future generations, but yet still leave their life advice behind.
That's cool. And I think about that, like it's leaving behind a personal history book more than a legacy book, really, because it's really my personal history. So that's cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. So now if you guys are selected as one of the co-hosts for the show, why don't you share with us like who, and it doesn't have to be like names or anything, but if you have names, use them. People that you would be showing, bringing on the show as guests, because what we're going to do is the co-hosts and I will be interviewing guests along the way during those 12 weeks. So start with you, Janine. Why don't you share with us either types of people or specific names if you have them of people you'll be bringing to the show.
So one of the aspects of my life that I just mentioned is the travel writing portion. So I did get into that arena. And as I have progressed into the ghost writing, legacy story writing portion, I'm still working in the travel writing arena, but it's going to be more on the back end side, more of a hobby type thing. But in that arena, I have access to people who travel all over the world. And they come from all walks of life. I have a mentor who was a nurse for the last 20 or 30 years. And so her walk of life is very different. But now she's created this whole new career, and she's traveling the world and stuff. And so there's a whole arena available to me across the whole globe of people that are from all these different walks of life that can bring a different story into the show, that can bring different experiences into the show, and different life advice. In addition to that, as I'm working in, and I just quit my job 2 months ago, so I am no longer a legal secretary. That is now in the past. So I'm embarking on this whole new journey of not having that job structure in my life. And as I can actually get out there and attend conferences and events that I've always wanted to attend but couldn't because I was at work, that avenue is opening up a whole new world to me. And I am meeting all kinds of people that I will then have access to use for, to connect people in the future. So people like Frank Shankowitz, who's the founder and co-founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Brian Smith, who's the founder of UGG Boots, Sharon Lecter, who is a financial genius in her own right and has been in the financial literacy realm herself for many years. So people along that level, Greg Reed, who actually created a local event out here called Secret Knock, that event alone brings in a plethora of people that have really made remarkable strides in their lives, that have great stories to bring.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And before I ask you the question, Sarah, I want to ask you, since you've been doing this for 20 years, you and Janine just really embarked on the journey 2 months ago, and I embarked on the entrepreneurial journey, and it was almost exactly 4 years ago. It was just like December 1st, I think it was. But why don't you share with us, because you've been doing it for 20 years, you have that, I'm imagining you have some kind of structure in set up, like Janine mentioned structure, because when we come from corporate, then we get into entrepreneurship and there is no structure at all. So how have you created your own type of structure, and how do you keep everything going? Because 20 years is a long time to keep motivating yourself.
I could not agree with you more. I actually have a lot of great tools. It's funny. One of the things that I've learned, so backing up a little bit, my mother was a bit of an entrepreneur. She was a real estate developer, and when women didn't really do that. And so she got into motivation and sales management and actually practiced Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins classes on me when I was a kid. So I like not even thinking that was different, just thinking that's how people think. And when I got into the workforce, I realized that isn't how most people think. And it was actually challenging for me because I wanted a high level of performance from the people that I worked with and my managers. And I didn't understand why I had higher expectations than they did. So that being said, I sort of quickly skirted from where I worked at home for a period of time. And that was a big transition because going from having, like you said, a corporate structure to working at home where you have performance goals, and then that's it. You have performance goals and you have you. And you have to learn, what I always tell people is not to do laundry during the day. You have to learn to not turn the TV on during the day. You have to learn to get up in the morning, take a shower, and say, my workday starts like this. So one of the great tools, which I think is a very simple idea, is making sure you write down your day the night before and plan out your day. And what I always tell people, because a lot of times people want to take on a lot of things, I say figure out what the 3 most important things are and get those things done. One of the reasons why is because we write a list or we put it in our calendar, we have 27 things. That basically demotivates us because we can't do 27 things in a day. You're going to have a few times in the day where you have control over your time. You'll be able to focus. And then there's the phone rings and then the fire starts and then this thing happens and that thing happens. But if you get in the habit of doing 3 things and you do that over and over again, it builds confidence and it helps you actually set yourself up for success. Because what we all want to do as an entrepreneur, like you said, is have structure to our day, but it takes time to learn how to have structure. It's not an automatic thing, as you know, right? As you both know.
Yeah.
And it's quite a challenge when you've gone from, I knew what I had to do every single day to now I'm not sure what I have to do every day. Or I have the freedom, like people who work for me. I have people that work for me and they are 1099, so they're entrepreneurial. And a lot of times when I train them, it's the first thing I have to explain is how you set up a schedule. You still have to set up a schedule and a calendar, because if you don't, you will drift, you'll float. And what I always tell people is, as an entrepreneur, I only get paid if I'm successful, if I achieve something, or if I'm effective, right? So I don't make money from, what I hate to say it, from being cute or from being funny or whatever. None of that helps me. It helps me if I'm effective at my goals. So if I can't help someone, if I can't be of value to someone where they're willing to pay me, I don't make any money. And so that's a realization that I think a lot of entrepreneurs need to make that transition in their mind.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, because I know there's all these tips and tricks and tools and things that we can use, but it's good to hear from somebody who's been doing it for a long period of time. So thanks for sharing that. Awesome. Okay, so why don't you share with us then, if you're selected as one of the co-hosts, who you'll be bringing to the show?
I have a lot of people that I can bring. And when I say a lot, people that, like, for example, a lady named Cheryl Conti. She is the first African-American woman who has done an M&A deal where she made more than $250 million. She's agreed to be one of my interviews. I have women that are in VCs, women that are partners in VCs, meaning venture capital, which allows someone to start a business or to sell a business or to fund a business. I also have a lot of charity contacts, because that's really my focus, is either business or charity. So anyone who has a social program, I have tons of access to tons of women all over the country that have social programs that do work from, for example, women in Africa, young women in Africa, a lot of times don't go to school because they don't have undergarments. And so when they don't have undergarments, they can't go to school. Either they don't have bras because they're embarrassed, or, if this is going to sound a little graphic, sorry if this is graphic, but if they don't have undergarments and they get their period, they don't have any way to go to school anymore. They don't have there. And so most women in certain parts of Africa quit school at 12. So there's actually women that I know here in the States that have built charities around getting undergarments to these women. And there's just projects like that I'd love to highlight.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So I want to go back to Janine. I'm going to check our time really quick here. Okay, go back to Janine. So Janine, how would somebody know that they should write their own story?
How would they know?
Yeah, like I'm sitting there thinking, well, my story's nothing. It's not important. Why would I want to put my story in a book? It doesn't mean anything.
I actually say that everybody has a story. And one of the stories that I usually talk to people about, or I lead speaking engagements with, is my grandmother's story. So, she was born in 1913. Her mother passed away when she was 13 years old. She was raised on a cotton farm several miles away from the nearest town in Little Rock, Arkansas. So she was very out in a desolate area. And then her journey actually continues. Her father remarried at a year later after her mother passed. She was 14 years old. That lady that he remarried was only 7 years older than her. So at 21, this lady now becomes a stepmom to a 14-year-old, takes on a husband, takes on a farm, a cotton farm out in rural Arkansas, and also then transitions into the war, the Great Depression, and all these different things. They also had a child that passed away from polio. So in this short life, she's not even 30 yet. I mean, she maybe probably wasn't even 20 yet, because, her father remarried at 14. So the rest of her life, after she got married, she cooked in cafeterias and hospitals and schools, and, just kind of followed along with her husband, raised 2 kids on her own, and they kind of moved around quite a bit. But that's just an ordinary life. She didn't make strides in the community. She didn't become well known. Her name was never in print anywhere. People didn't talk about her. She just lived on the sidelines. But she has a story, and a pretty remarkable story at that. I mean, how many people have had their parents die at 13, their father remarried to somebody that was only 7 years older, then go through a second death of a child before you're even 20 years old? So everybody has a story, and your unique journey needs to be told, because it's going to resonate with somebody out there, and somebody can learn from what you need to share. And when you do that, and that actually inspires them to actually step out of their self and become great as well, so that they can create a legacy story that is then treasurable to leave behind for their family members, something that will allow them to become immortal and unforgettable to their future generations.
Yeah, that's I like that, because like you share her story, right? It really wasn't that. It wasn't like the spectacular. She wasn't a star or anything like that. And she's leaving behind her story for your family, and then for your family's family, and so on. Instead of somebody making up stories, like me, for example, I don't know any. I know very, very little about my grandparents, let alone my great grandparents. So even just getting that far into it, so to be able to have that as story, I think that's awesome. I'm so glad you're doing that. That's exciting. It's exciting.
It's a lot of fun. And one of the things that I really loved about getting into the travel writing, besides the fact that you get to travel all over the world and you get all kinds of perks and stuff that go with that. But my part of traveling isn't so much to see 13 countries in 13 days. It's really about staying longer in an area so that you can get to know the cultures, get to know the people that make those cultures thrive, learn more about their stories, and tell that about the community, tell that about the country or the city or the state that you're visiting. Everybody talks about like the touristy spots and the great little restaurants and stuff, but nobody's telling the stories of the regular people. And it's the people that make life thrive.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I love that. So we got one last question for Sarah before we go, because you guys stick around, because after this interview is here, this audition is done here, you're going to vote at talkotuesday.tv. If you're watching the replay, the polls are already open, and the polls will close Monday, the 26th of November at midnight Pacific time. So I have to remember, what day is that by then, So Sarah, why don't you give us like one really great tip about making more money as an entrepreneur? Let's go out with a bang.
Well, before I give you the tip, I want to say two things really quick. Janine, it's been a pleasure to be on the show with you. And I just want to thank you and Linda. And by the way, we also, at Gwen, we have a hashtag that we want to start, Reveal to Heal. And we agree with you about stories, that the stories are stories need to be told, and they empower people. They empower people. Yes. When someone hears your story, it gives them permission to also have their own story. And by the way, another person that I would potentially bring on is your other Dr. DeWitt.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. DeWitt, who is in the running to be a co-host, but I'm just saying I work with him as well. So anyway, hopefully one way or the other, he and I will get to work somehow on this together.
Yeah, so if you two are co-hosts, you can't bring him on as a guest, okay? I'll just put that out there.
But that being said, one way to make more money in your business is to get really clear on what you want. Someone who's a very average person will make more money if they're very clear on what they want than someone who's very talented. A very talented person who thinks it's just going to come to them, like I said, they're going to get beat every time by somebody who's very clear on their goals. And so one of the things that I like to do is help people sit down and figure out their, not just their goals, but kind of their purpose behind the goal. So people often will talk about, like Simon Sinek, Marcia Wieder will talk about someone's why, but it's a little more complicated in my opinion, because I even go back to Napoleon Hill. I think it's Napoleon Hill who said that goals without passion are impotent goals. And if they're impotent, don't attract people. And so one of the ways to attract people to you and to your goals, which ultimately leads to making money, is by being really clear and making sure you're really connecting to yourself.
Awesome. Okay, so one last parting word from both of you guys about vote for me kind of thing. So Sarah, we'll start with you, because after this, I'm going to send you guys down. I'm going to tell people how they can vote and talk about it and share with them who the winners were from last week's auditions.
Parting tip, please. I'd like to be on the show. I think I could have a great impact. I would be on the show with anyone that Linda chooses, because I just like to get the message out and empower more people. So please vote for me if you think that I might be a good addition. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Janine.
I say the same thing. I would love to be on this show. It's been a lot of fun going through this audition process. Sarah, it's been wonderful meeting you too, and I can't wait to connect with you more on Facebook and see how we can partner and do things together. And my experience with just being able to reach out and bring culture and other people to the show, I think is going to be super, super fun. I know Linda, I've known Linda for years, so I'll just put that out there. But Linda and I have a lot of fun together, and I just know that, you know, we can just take this show along with whoever else becomes a part of it and just really have a lot of fun with it. So if you guys are into living a life beyond awesome and you want to have fun, then let's just do this show all together.
Awesome. So with that said, you guys are going down in the lobby, and then we'll see who votes for you and what happens next week, because I will reveal next Tuesday the winner of this segment. Okay. Fantastic. So Steven, why don't you go ahead and show up on the screen there, the winners from last week. Dun, 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 dun.
Well, I can show the 4 from last week.
Oh, you don't? Oh, I sent you the card. Okay. So here goes. The winners are, and I know that they're waiting to hear because they sent me a message this morning saying, who's the winner? I'm like, I'm not going to tell you until I reveal it live. So the winners are Dr. John and Anita. So you guys are moving into the next round. And thank you guys. I want to thank everybody who sent their votes in. Again, those votes quintupled from last week. Okay. Oh, you can show that one. You had a Clara and Linda. They were from the first round. So Clara, Linda, John, and Anita are moving into the next round. And I hope you guys will be able to be here throughout all of that. So again, go to talkotuesday.tv. Once Steven and I, I see John just commented something. I don't know what he said, but what did he say, Steven?
He's not commented here.
Oh, like I said, it says he commented on my video. Interesting. So I'm not sure where he commented, but I'm on my phone, so I can't see the comments. We'll see that later. But you guys, thank you so much for being part of Taco Tuesday. This is a dream that I had a little over a year ago to have my own show. And now, you know, I'm putting it out there and people are actually, you know, tuning in, which is a lot of fun for me because I have this message I want to deliver. I believe that we should have as much fun as possible in life, hang out with inspiring and uplifting people who want to make a positive impact on the planet. And that's what I'm hoping that Taco Tuesday will bring to you. Actually, I'm not hoping that. I know that that's what Taco Tuesday will bring to you. So you guys, see you. Oh, wait. Do we have next week's?
We have a comment from John, and he's saying that he said, whoa, or woohoo, or however you want to pronounce it. Okay.
Say that again. I liked it in your accent.
No, that's my 4th show today. We've made it through. And,
and so then, thank you, Steven. Thank you so much. You're absolutely amazing. And I love doing this with you. We're cutting the show short today because, 2 people were sick. But again, the polls will open. Give me about 3 or 4 minutes for me to hit that button that says polls open. And we will see you guys next week. And I will reveal the winner of this week's show. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Bye. Right. So we're ending the broadcast.